Floating is a process where it's like a spa environment, but instead of going back to get a massage or something, you go back in a room and we have either a float pod or a float pool, which is just like something you lay in that has about 10 to 12 inches of water in it. About 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt is dissolved in it, and so that Epsom salt allows you to actually just float effortlessly in the water or on the water without having to do anything. You don't have to know how to swim, anything like that. We keep the water skin temperature, which is around 94, 95 degrees. That allows you to sort of lose track of the skin-water barrier. So after a while, you feel like you're literally just floating in space. You have control over light and music. So if you want, you can have total quiet, total darkness, really totally shut yourself off from like all that external stimuli in the world. You don't have gravity against your joints. You're sort of able to just relax and feel this like weightless floating sensation.
What kind of stories have you heard of creativity that's been sparked in the 1 hour float?
Here I've actually had like artists come in and float, and one that I really remember, which was like right after we opened, I had a woman come in. She came out after like 30, 40 minutes of her hour, and I was like, oh no, like, is everything okay? Like, why'd you come out? And she's like, I'm sorry, I just had this like creative explosion and I need to like get to my studio right now. And she like rushed out to like get to her studio to like get going. And then we have similar things like that where people like keep a notebook next to it because they'll have ideas come to them while they're floating and they want to just make sure they write them down like before they forget them. So.
Did you ever hear what happened with the creative explosion?
I didn't. You know, I should have followed up with her. Like, there's probably some amazing like art installation that came out of that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That would have been a nice one to have.
I know. Oh man, I'll have to look her up.
All right, fair enough. Tell me about the science behind floating. What does it do?
Right. So what happens is the being able to cut out, say, light, darkness, scent, gravity, like our brain is kind of 90% of the brain is being used at all times for just like keeping us upright and like knowing what's going on and like working with light and sound and things. And so when you cut all that off, it opens up your brain to sort of focus on other things, whether it's internally like yourself, whether it's like the creativity we talked about, whether it's the processes within our body that can be like more focused on. And then it also releases serotonin. And so it gives you this sort of feeling of just like calm and relaxation out of it.
Hey, I'm Michael.
Hi, I'm Maddie. Andy asked me to show you around. Okay, so now we're in the pod room. Once you're in here, you can really just shut out the world and trust in the process. We'll supply everything you need for your whole experience here. You are going to shower before and after floating, but when you're ready to get in, you just go ahead and open up the lid. There's no lock or latch, so this is always under your control, like Andy said. Inside the pod, you'll have 2 controls, so everything's at your fingertips. That'll control your light and music options. There's no right or wrong way with floating. It's always what makes you feel the best and most relaxed. The session starts and ends automatically, so it keeps everything nice and easy for you. There's a nice loud voice that comes on at the end that tells you everything's done. So time can get a little strange when you're floating, which is one of the cool aspects of it. And once the session's ended, it'll give you some time to get out and start showering again. You're gonna wanna really rinse all that salt water off.
So one of the questions that you probably get asked a lot is how clean is the water? Can you talk about that process?
Yes, good question. So after each session, all of this water is ran through, actually this is our filtration cycle right here. It goes through a filter 3 times and a UV light to fully clean that water, in addition to the high salt content. We also add peroxide daily and do water testing, just to keep an eye on everything and make sure it's all clean and ready to go.
Some people probably suffer from claustrophobia, particularly in the pod.
It's funny because that is probably the like biggest question we get, or kind of anxiety we'll hear from people. Like that is higher than like how do you clean the tanks, which I've always found interesting. But what I always tell people is when you're in like a pod, for example, and let's say you turn the light off, those rooms are soundproof, lightproof. So when you turn that off, you can't even tell if your eyes are open or not, and it feels like you could be in the vastness of space. So it doesn't feel like you're enclosed or anything. Plus, it's such a psychological thing, right? Claustrophobia. Sure. You're not trapped. You can crack the lid open. You can pop out whenever you want. So there's no like sensation of like you can't do whatever you want. We also added 2 open pools, also just for people that still weren't quite sure about it. Those aren't covered. They're bigger, just for people to kind of ease in if they want to, you know, sort of see what it'll be like, but don't want to right away commit to having something that has a lid.
All right, so welcome to the pool room. As you can see, this has a little bit more space than the pod for you to be able to fully stretch out your arms. So that is a big reason why some choose this room over the pod. Personally, I like to go back and forth based on my mood that day because both are a great experience. The other difference, obviously, is that there's not a lid. So for those that might have the concern about claustrophobia, this might be a great place to start just to get used to the environment. You're going to follow the same process that we talked about in the pod room with showering before and after, and again, we'll supply everything you need. And then we do have similar button options in here as well to control your light and music. So you'll have everything at your fingertips and you can let go and relax. One of the other reasons why I like the pool better is I definitely get a little bit more of the floating in space feel without having anything super close to bump into. You'll naturally float in a circle while you're in this pool, but you won't feel that motion.
Now you see a lot of people that come to you to help with certain ailments, and floating can help with some of those things. What is common? What does floating help with?
Yeah, so probably the most common things we see are people coming in for chronic pain, whether it's like arthritis or chronic back pain, things like that. You have your basic just sort of stress relief relaxation, which, you know, and especially in this environment, feels like everyone has something that they need to sort of let go or get away from. Anxiety, PTSD symptoms, things like that, it can really help with as sort of helping your body decompress and sort of being more in tone with your inner, like, you know, heartbeat and breathing and things like that. And then there's a whole range of other things like insomnia. I have people that come for like focus or clarity before, like, say they have a big meeting at work, or, you know, maybe a big training, they're gonna run a marathon or something, just to kind of clear their mind and sort of, you know, envision what's to come and help them sort of prepare for it. And then on the other side of that, you have recovery, right? So, you know, after a bunch of workouts or a marathon or something, just to help your body sort of like recover faster.
You mentioned PTSD, and I know that you guys have a passion for the veteran community. Talk a little bit about that, please.
Sure, yeah. So really early on, we just noticed how floating can really help with those symptoms. And obviously, the veteran community is a big area that suffers from PTSD and anxiety and some of the other things I mentioned, like pain and insomnia. And so I just wanted to make floating as accessible as possible to everyone who could need it the most. So pretty early on, we started doing sort of partnering with different veteran organizations. And so we offer, actually every year, we do a whole free month of floating in November for veterans. And so we get, you know, many hundreds of floats given away that way. And then also for family members of veterans as well. And so we've just had a lot of positive feedback. We've worked with the Vet Center and the VA and different organizations, and just, you know, it's like the more it helps, the more you want to help, right? And so that's just sort of why Float was open to begin with, and it's just an area that we really try to dig into.
So we've got a big day ahead of us. We've got a couple listing appointments, some meetings going on. We're showing Rive some properties today, and as you know, she's a first-time investor, so obviously a little nervous.
Yes.
But I think it'll be really fun to show her different ways of investing. So in her mind, most new investors' minds, it's buy a property, rent it to a tenant. But I think with your awesome success in vacation rentals lately, we should show her one of your properties.
Absolutely.
And talk about how profitable they can be.
Yeah, I think it'll really wow her because people don't even know that that's an opportunity for them, and they don't think that they can even begin in the vacation rental world, let alone, like you said, they think that they just have to do those long-term rentals. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. We're dealing with more and more investors because this is such an amazing place to invest.
It is.
There's so much opportunity. I mean, we can talk about your campus rentals to college students, long-term rentals, which of course are like we can do it in our sleep, but still something that most people want to learn more about. Vacation rental, more and more people want to come to Milwaukee to spend time in vacation. So I think we really have a lot to share there, along with even commercial building, like here.
Yeah, there's literally so many different things you can do with real estate. It blows my mind.
It's crazy, and I feel like we're just touching on the surface, but we'll have more and more investment clients, as you know, because more and more people are doing this, that we have so much to share and teach them.
Yep.
But speaking of, we have to get going soon.
Yes.
Riva's appointment is coming up. You know Milwaukee meters, mine's about to time out, so we need to go. Did you pay yours this time?
Nope, never do. You know that, Morgan.
So this is my first investment property, and I bought this about 6 or 7 years ago, and for around $150,000.
Oh my gosh.
I know, I know.
When you look at what the market looks like now, it's insane.
It makes everyone want to sell their property at any given time.
Yep.
So this was just kind of my little nugget that paid for itself. And if you think about it, what other thing can you buy that somebody else is paying off? When I think about it, it like blows my mind.
It's incredible.
And it just starts with that one little one.
Yep. It's beautiful. I love these older duplexes.
I do
So
too.
charming.
I think the biggest lesson I learned with this property is that none of us had $1 million portfolio overnight.
Yep.
And for a few years of having this is all I had, and that was okay. It takes patience and time and really trust in the market.
Yep. I agree.
I think the hardest part too, as your property goes up in value, like you want to sell it any minute,
Yep.
and it takes so much patience
Yep.
and
Yes.
willpower to not sell it.
I have clients who reach out to me that just bought houses a year ago, and they're like, hey, just out of curiosity, what's it worth? I'm like, you're holding. Like, we're not selling. By the time you factor in all the costs, but it is very tempting, right?
Right.
Because you see your peers and whatnot going and selling their houses and, you know, making honestly $100,000, which is what my seller is going to walk away with from that property.
Right.
And she bought it in 2019. She had no idea that that would ever be a reality for her. She was literally too stunned to speak when we were sitting there reviewing offers. She was shocked.
I think the thing I think about too is, okay, you get this $100,000 or $200,000. What can you go do with that?
Yes, and that is key. You don't want to go spend it. You want to use that to continue to be a vehicle to build your wealth through real estate. Just like you said, when you're cash flowing that money, put it back in the property, put it in an account that you're saving for another down payment. So many people make the mistake of looking at it as extra income.
Right.
It's not extra income. You need to use that to allow yourself to continue to grow so you can have that huge, abundant $1 million portfolio.
Yeah, so we didn't do a whole lot in here. Again, a lot of cosmetic work, paint, things like that. We've definitely had issues come up. I think I've replaced that faucet. I think the stove has broken at one point. Things come up, but in the end, it does all even out, and they do profit, right?
Yes.
Even when they seem like they're not.
Oh, definitely. And the important thing to note in here too is that you can't just go ripping out cabinets. I mean, the property as a whole looks nice, and it's something that even I would live in.
Yeah, and it's 100 years
acceptable.
old.
It is 100 years old, exactly. And the woodwork, which is so rare, it's not painted white.
Right.
So nice.
You should be arrested for painting wood trim white. Let me just say that.
I couldn't agree more. I absolutely couldn't agree more.
Okay, well here we are, UWM downtown.
Yes.
So, okay, I know you started with one, right?
Yeah.
So what happened then? You get one and they're kind of addicting, aren't they?
They are, yeah, and it's a snowball effect. And you know how we were talking about how you just need to get started earlier at your duplex? That's exactly what we did here.
I feel like this is such a niche market, right? So
Yep.
nobody ever thinks, okay, I'm gonna buy a property, I'm gonna rent only to college kids, right?
Right.
So that comes with its own totally different
It does.
situation. Like,
Yep.
how many beer bongs have you seen off that deck?
Too many to count, unfortunately. So yeah, it's a different animal for sure. And it's a different investment type as well. It's not for everyone, and they operate so much differently than even your standard long-term rental as well. So it is completely different. There are things that I do to these properties that I would not do for the other properties, and vice
Right.
versa. So you have to be super selective in what you do, but they also have the opportunity to cash flow in a different way, and honestly, an exceptional way.
So I bet you're really popular with the college kids.
Oh yeah.
Are you their favorite person?
I am the favorite person on Maryland. That is why nobody is out here right now. I always say that I feel like they all know my Honda. And when they see me coming down the street, they all run inside and hide. But
The Wicked Witch of Maryland.
yeah, no kidding, no kidding. But no, we, We try to give them good properties. We do more than the average landlord in the neighborhood. We do remodel the kitchens, remodel the bathrooms, you know, fresh paint. We want to have nice rentals, and at the end of the day, I want to be able to provide housing that we're proud of. So,
Well, we've got to go. Got to
Yes.
show Riva that property.
yes, we
So,
do. She's
let's
going to
go.
be there any minute. All right.
Hi.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. So glad you could come today.
Yeah, so this is the house we were talking about. We're gonna go check it out. All right.
I like it.
Oh yeah, a little bit different than we've seen before.
Yes. This property is a really good example for you to see as you consider short-term rentals. This property, purchased it, renovated it completely down to the studs. It's an old 1930s duplex. It needed a lot of work, but you see how it looks clean, polished,
Yes.
nice, well kept. We really made sure we went to the nines for this because we knew it was gonna be a short-term rental. And when you look at who our competition is, well, it's the hotels, right? So when somebody goes and stays at a hotel and you know you have maid service and all that and everything looks pristine, neat, nice, we wanna make sure that we are also echoing that in the short-term rentals. So then if we come back in here, you're gonna see the dining room area. So as you can see, once again, nice, clean,
Yes.
polished, simple. You walk in, it's very hotel-esque.
Yes.
We refinished the hardwoods, we did the crisp white walls, went ahead and did black trim just for fun, make it look nice and clean.
What's fun about these is you can pick out furniture a little funkier than you normally would put in your house,
Yes.
right? Because it's a vacation, you want the experience.
Yes,
So
exactly.
you get to kind of let your creative vibes flow.
Yes. I really like this idea. What kind of investment am I looking at?
Yeah, so it's definitely more an investment on the front end, like I mentioned to you before.
Okay.
When we did this property, it cost us about $125,000 all in with the remodel, the furnishing.
Okay.
The property next door that I'm gonna show you when we remodeled it, it only cost about $50,000.
Yes, it costs more to get into it, but you're also making more money too because people are paying per night as opposed to per month. So we're all used to tenants, right? Where they pay a check every month and live there. Things happen at the vacation rental, but people are paying a premium per night to be there. So the amount you can make every month is significantly greater.
A lot of people will cringe at the idea of spending $25,000 on furniture alone, but remember that will pay off for you. And once again, creating a better guest experience, which is going to lead to better reviews and a more popular property.
So sometimes you'll find you'll spend a little bit more on appliances and a kitchen for a short term because when you're on vacation, you expect nicer things, right? When you go to a hotel, you don't see old appliances or old items, right? They have to look nice and modern and updated. So you want them to look clean and fresh. So you're probably going to change them over more often than you would a regular rental. This sounds really scary, right? When we throw out numbers like 50,000, 100,000, you don't need to have $100,000 sitting in a bank account. We're really here to help you strategize and figure out how to maximize a property's potential without having that money sitting in cash in a bank account. We're gonna make sure though that it's as risk averse as humanly possible for you.
Let's go next door. I really want to show you the other property before we run out of time so you can see the difference.
This would be more like what we would call like white box space. Drywall, paint, appliances, but as you can see, no decor, no artwork, no furniture. But you're gonna have a more reliable tenant, they're gonna pay rent every month, they're gonna be here long term, you're not gonna have as much turnover, so the risk is less, but the reward is a little bit less too.
The tenant that I had in this unit did live here for 3 years, and she just moved out, paid rent like clockwork every single month. But now that she's gone, it's a pretty simple turnover. We're gonna come in here, paint, fix the standard light fixtures. You can kind of see the difference, and get it ready for the next tenant.
The nice thing is a turnover allows you to typically get rent where it should be. Because a lot of times us landlords have hearts and we tend to not increase rent every year.
So Riva, I know that we just looked at 2 properties, 2 very different properties at that. What are you thinking? What's the best fit for you?
Well, you've given me a lot to think about, so I like the options. I think I've made my decision, but I want to just think it over a little bit. So
Sure.
I'll be in touch shortly.
Okay.
Treasure.
Hi.
Good. Thank you so much for taking me around town today. I've had a lot of time to think about the different options you presented with me, and I really appreciate the expertise, and I just feel like I can really trust you and McKenna and the team. So I've made my decision, and I think I'd like to go with the short-term rental option.
That's awesome. We are so excited.
You made the right choice.
We're gonna make sure that this is super fun for you, profitable, and we are gonna get to work.
Yep, can't wait. We'll talk to you soon, Eva.